Hey, everybody. Welcome back to your Dawn of Drones podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting. We are in April, and it is a month dedicated to multi-domain operations support, sponsored by MatrixSpace. And we finally have MatrixSpace on the show. Lori DeMatteis, their Chief Growth Officer. Welcome to the show, Lori.
Thank you, Dawn. Welcome. We're so excited to be here and so excited to announce MatrixSpace. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sponsoring this month dedicated to multi-domain ops support. Normally we have our month sponsor on the first show of the month, and Lori called me and said, wait a minute, we're doing a big reveal on April 11th. We need to be on right after that. So here we are. And, obviously we're going to talk about the big announcement you guys had yesterday with your MatrixSpace Radar. But before we do, Lori, I want to, for those that don't know you, and most people do, but those that don't, can you give us kind of like that 30-second elevator speech background?
Absolutely. Hello to everyone. I'm Lori DeMatteis. I've been in the industry now, about 4 years, and just find this an amazing, fantastic time, and encourage everybody to join this industry. But from a standpoint of my background, I have multiple experiences in taking small companies or small teams or small divisions within large companies and rapidly building them, and just have really a lot of fun on leading edge technology and bringing that into the marketplace on a global basis. So I've spent a lot of time as an expat. I've opened up 110 countries, and looking forward to doing the same thing here at MatrixSpace.
Well, it's no wonder they hired you as their Chief Growth Officer. So tell us about MatrixSpace, Lori, because, I know the company is not brand new. It's been around for a little bit, but you're taking it to new heights. So tell us a little bit about the background of the company.
The company is actually, it's a very, very cool background. It's here in the United States. Everything has been either with US citizens or green card holders. We are headquartered in Burlington, Massachusetts, which for those of you that don't know is right outside of Boston. We started as an incubator on the Northeastern campus. We are still part of the Northeastern family. And we have our autonomy team located there. And then our radar team and some of our hardware development team is located right outside of Motorola Hoffman Estates, which is literally right about 30 minutes from the Chicago airport. And so we have a group of folks there as well. So those are our two locations here in the United States.
Well, awesome. And you all are reimagining radar. We're going to talk a lot about that today. And you're also doing this thing you've coined as sensing as a service. So tell us, just kind of the quick synopsis of your mission there at MatrixSpace.
So our mission is to be able to improve information into our clients' hands, be it military or be it commercial. Our radar is literally the size of a cell phone and about just a little bit a longer width. About double the thickness.
Yep.
And we believe that this is a game changer for being able to have the industry have something that's small and portable to be able to use to do, whether it's looking in the air and getting information from the air, whether it's on autonomous vehicles on the air or the ground, or whether it's in a ground-based situation, looking at ground-based security, or BVLOS situation where something's flying in the air. So that's what we're about. We're about taking things to the edge and being able to give information back to the user and connecting those piece parts almost like a little bit of an umbrella of coverage.
So it makes also an abundant amount of sense why you chose this theme of multi-domain operational support. And Lori, you showed us this little radar. This is what you had the big announcement about yesterday.
Yes,
the the first, I believe you coined it, the first compact, low cost, high performance radar for new situational awareness solutions. And so it's light, it's small. It also does outdoor and indoor surveillance in 4D.
Yes.
Everybody hears about 3D. Honestly, Lori, I think at Geo Week, I was talking to some company and they made up 5D. I'm like, all right, what are all these Ds? What is 4D?
It's longitude, latitude, it's height, it's width, and time. So it gives you
Oh,
all of the complete spatial awareness, if you will, in a dimension. So it's no longer just height, width, depth, but then you add the time dimension to that.
oh, wow. Okay. And the importance of that?
Though I think the importance is that you can start to track and you see how fast that object that you are tracking is moving through through the space, through the time horizon. So you get a very good idea not only of where it's going, but how fast it is moving.
Okay. And that lends itself to a whole host of missions, including
Yes.
like detect and avoid.
Detect and
What
avoid is
else? What am I missing here?
well, I think from a standpoint, I like to say we unlock BV loss. And so let's take a step back. As we know in the industry, BV loss is very much important to the regulators. Being able to be safe, being able to detect and avoid whatever it is in front of you, behind you, and around you.
Right.
One of the things that's been a challenge is the swap and the weight of such sensor technology to date, especially if you're in that class 2, class 1 kind of aircraft.
Oh, like
Autonomous.
ops over people, you're referring to the
Yeah,
different classes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, swaps over people and different, the different sizes and weights of the aircraft. So from that standpoint, we shift that paradigm. We give the industry in a 360 format, less than about 2.5 pounds, the ability now to be able to have that and be able to fly BV loss safely because you can track and see what's around you within that security area, security bubble that you need. So I like to say we unlock BV loss when we're talking about on board. Now, when you go into the ground situation, then we give you the information around. Now, whether that's in the air, like how many people are flying over and being able to do some of those counts and triggers, or whether it's on the ground, what's happening around an aspect from a security standpoint as well.
Okay, very good. Now, I'm sure most people watching this show know what BV loss is, but because I'm very sensitive to acronyms, being former militaries, beyond visual line of sight, which is
Yes,
really
thank you.
that people are still calling it the holy grail of the drone industry, right? Like scalable, repeatable. You need to be able to do this without having a visual observer or a pilot having eyes on this drone. You also used another one, Lori, swap, size, weight, and power. So you talked about size. You gave us that visual there, right? You talked a little bit about the weight. Let's talk about the power, because as people, operators think about, well, how does this actually work for me, right? Tell us a little bit about the low power that this will use if it's on board a drone or a ground vehicle like Spot, robots, and things like this. What is the power?
So the power requirements are less than 25 watts. And so it's a very low power device, which we also believe is a change from what current technology has enabled to date. So whether you're in a ground-based situation where you want to permanently mount something, you can literally do this with a single array, solar array, or whether you are on board, then you can, obviously to connect into the power components on board. But when you're talking about these smaller systems, it hasn't been feasible to date because some of these systems require such a large amounts of power. So not only do we have a very small form factor size that we've discussed, we have a very low weight option that now enables these planes to be able to safely fly and handle beyond visual line of sight flight. And then we actually have the low power. Interestingly, if you are in a situation where you're mobile, let's say you're doing surveying or environmental assessments or weather kind of related assessments, emergency management, you're not going to permanently stick something there. You need a way of being able to instantly see the surroundings and being able to, send up your autonomous system. You can do that now with our system because it can be actually run off of a single cell power battery as well.
Wow, that is significant. Can you tell us like a little bit about some of the other key features, because MatrixSpace designed this to be unique?
Yes, it did. And what we wanted to do was to be able to combine the intelligence from a radar system as well as into a software defined aspect. What I mean by that is, as we bring out new technology with this system, our clients will benefit from that and then being able to literally update it through the software.
Is that like my Tesla, Lori, where you're going to be pushing updates?
Yeah, it's going to be
Okay,
like
I walk into my
right?
car, it's like, what's different today?
Yeah. But the neat thing about this is we're not just the radar, we're also the radar and the networking capability. So we have the ability to take this and give you, wherever this is, be able to combine the sensors and the technology and bring information back to the end user customer as to what's happening in a holistic vantage point. So it's really about computing at the edge and technology at the edge. Now, we've heard about that forever, but we haven't had true edge computing. What we've had is individual sensors and technology coming back to a central command post.
Okay.
What we change is that ability to actually give the information on our compute is inside the radar system itself. It makes it different and unique because we can actually start to talk about taking information from air to ground, ground to ground, air to air. So we bring in a total mesh network or a bubble, depending on where and how this is laid out. But again, it's about taking that technology and being able to layer it to whatever that end user need is. But the other differentiation of this system is that it works autonomously. So it doesn't require a cloud access. A lot of technologies, especially on the IoT side today, you require the ability to take information and send it to a cloud and then bring it back down and try to work through it and understand what's happening. We do that all within the system, contained within it. Then that information can be taken to a cloud depending on the end user's preference, or to a satellite system, or to even just standing right there, your ground-based system right in front of you. You don't even need to go somewhere else. That's another unique differentiation of our system, is it's cloud independent.
It's cloud independent.
Correct.
Yeah, because everybody's like, oh yeah, we're in the cloud, and you've got this really unique mesh network, which I think is a differentiator. And we always say in the drone world, right? It's all about the data. It's not about the hardware. And the data that is getting pulled in through this network, there's like a wide range and field of view for this system. So can you walk us through a little bit about what that, in terms of range, what we're talking about here?
Yeah. So we are absolutely on par or a little bit better with most of the specs, or with the specs that is involved with most of the systems that are sized today. You can't compare this radar to something that's, as big as a house, or big as a house, right? We're talking about something that fits in a backpack. So you have to at least compare it with like to like.
Right.
From a standpoint of being able to see in our systems, we're out, to typically on your general aviation, we're out 2.5 kilometers plus. From a smaller drone size, we're out, 1 kilometer plus. Even to the precision of a golf ball at 300 meters. Our accuracy is within meter. So we're very, very highly accurate. At the same time, we're very specific. So that also, I think, is a big differentiator. Our field of view, our range is a 120 by 120. So you can be able to complete a 360 system with just 3 radars.
Very, very cool. And what is like the data, let's just say output to the
Certainly.
client? Yeah.
So some of our clients, particularly those who are on board, want just the raw data itself, and they will be processing it through their own compute modules, which is absolutely and perfectly understandable. We do detection and alerting. We do not do the avoidance maneuver. We leave that to the manufacturers to be handling it for their specific autonomous systems. Now, from a standpoint of if somebody wanted to have some kind of an end user module, it's very adaptable. We have a complete open system. And what we have is a GUI interface that's very intuitive. So it's gesture controlled. You're able to move it back and forth. It's operated as an individual user interface or as an enterprise API. So we have a little bit of an options depending on the type of customer, a person is.
Okay, very cool. And so like as it's just let's pretend I'm a customer. From the user interface standpoint, what does that look like to me?
Looks like what we have on the screen today. It's like I said, it's very intuitive. It gives you the information of the surroundings. Obviously, there's a whole different module, if you will, set up. That's, to be able to set up everything. We estimate the training will be less than 2 to 3 hours for an end user. We don't expect people to be experts in radar. We want a common person to be able to take this and utilize this technology. So we offer a training class that's a couple of hours long for them. And then we estimate in the field setup is somewhere between 15 to 30 minutes until people get used to it. And depending obviously on how, kind of their end user and their experience with this kind of technology is. But again, we have aimed as a company, our mantra has been within MatrixSpace to ensure that everything is very simple and easy to use.
Well, that's key because if I was out in the field, I mean, I imagine, there's a team there, right? You've got a crew, but the more training and the more different things I have to know, like,
Yes.
and the simpler you can make this for me, the better,
Yes.
right? So absolutely. So we talked a little bit about drones, Lori, but I know you and I have talked offline. This could apply to electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, advanced air mobility use case kind of scenarios. Tell us a little bit how does this work? So in addition to being like on board the aircraft, you could have ground units and like just tell us a little bit more about that.
So it's been very interesting from a standpoint of what the end users have fed to me in my conversations, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's gotten very excited about this because there's an ease of use now that they can do on board, but they also can have it, let's say in a vertiport, and being able to have it sitting there and be able to handle situational awareness and
Oh,
those kinds of aspects, or even safety. Right? It doesn't necessarily even have to be situational awareness as far as, oh yeah, I can fly BVLOS right now. But is there somebody there before you're landing and you get an alert? Is there, and let's just say in a security border kind of environment, is there somebody crossing? We have the differentiation with our AI machine learning elements to be able to characterize various aspects and being able to do identification. And that's what we've been working with from a military perspective. So we have some deep intelligence in this, as well as the traditional operational aspects. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I imagine, I mentioned the ground robot, like the spot dog. You can attach things to that. Is that how it would work with such a UGV, as they call them, a quad
Yeah,
UGV?
so there's a lot of different aspects. When you think about where autonomous vehicles are going, it can be everything from what we've traditionally thought about, which is unmanned systems or stable security kinds of systems. But now you have, because of this lightweight and small form factor, we flipped the paradigm of being able to attach to smaller kinds of units, especially when you're talking about military situations. So, or even just safety. Let's say you've got something going on, heaven forbid, some kind of shooting or a large big, huge, large crowd control. You want to be able to send in an autonomous vehicle just to see what's happening on the ground. Now you're able to do so. And with our radar sensor, be able to have combined with other sensors, because we're sensor agnostic, we can combine that and be able to see what's happening and give that information back to the end user. So wherever a vehicle can support the weight of our system, then you can add this sensor technology to it. So for example, could it be a large autonomous bird that's trying to take care of crops and the damage to crops? I mean, as we all know, there is billions of dollars of losses globally a year to birds in our basically food supply. So if we could shift that paradigm as a world to save our crops and be able to support and some of this famine that's going on, I think we can change that. We can change the whole aspect of food insecurity to food security. We protect our crops. And so there's companies now that are doing autonomous flight with these birds that scare away other birds. It's economically viable. It's very cost effective. It isn't shooting lead into the food supply or the water supply. And it looks like a real bird. Now we can actually be on there and enable that bird to safely fly without causing a collision. So that's a game changer. So there's a lot of aspects for this technology that I think is just starting to come into bear because of the fact of it's a small form factor.
Well, and it's plug and play, as you
Yep.
you said, basically. How does it work in the maritime environment? I assume it's not waterproof. You wouldn't stick it on an underwater, like uncrewed vehicle or UUV or something, or can you?
Well, as you start to look at military applications, then that's where you get into your IP hardening.
Sure.
And so, yes, there is circumstances, and we have been asked to look at various things where you do have some water. And so think about it as a change with water as to from a standpoint of, let's say, search and rescue.
Right.
Now you have an easy way to do, one of the big challenges that these big ships have is they've got these massive radar systems, which
Right.
work hundreds of miles out or, quite a few distances out.
Sure.
But try to pinpoint that locally to somebody that might be right underneath the ship or near the ship that's come over in a situation of a man overboard.
Right.
Seeing an object that's down there, let's say a fishing boat, an empty fishing boat or whatever it is, it's very difficult. And now we switch that paradigm because you can literally set up these radars around literally the form of the top of the ship. So you just think about hooking them around. And it's so simple for a sailor to set up. He doesn't need the master's in engineering degree.
Yeah.
He can just set these up. They can, be on their own cell power backup, do the searching that they're doing in that area, and then be able to pick them back up. And so from a standpoint of savings to whoever that search and rescue vehicle is, if it's the Coast Guard, if it's a Navy, if it's a private ship or whatever, is quite substantial. I've been told over thousands and thousands of dollars because there's been some thought process that says this could take down about 50% of the search time if they could have a radar system that can be put out around and very easily deployed.
Or, we're talking about networks. Lori, you may not realize this, but we had Cam Shell from Dragonfly on the other day working with Cruise Line, because apparently there's a ton of man overboard and woman overboard scenarios on cruise ships.
Yeah.
And, so attach one of these to the Dragonflyer or the Commander 3XL. And now you not only have that 360 around the ship itself, but now you've got a roving, right, from the air. I mean, the possibilities are really, really endless. And, port security, critical infrastructure, you've got some really other unique use cases. I remember looking through some of your information, and you talked about sports performance data and arena security. And I was thinking, what? So no, it's a weirdie, and I love talking about interesting things. So tell us about that one.
So I think what like I said is we're unlocking the possible. We have the art of the possible, and we're unlocking it. And I think that's what the difference is now. And so to your point, whether it's ports, whether it's just critical infrastructure security, right? And supporting guards that need that additional help and information that they don't have. People don't realize the limitations on video cameras. They're very specific and very, very good, right? And if you've got very bad weather, it's very hard to see. I mean, visual cameras are as bad as like our eyes, right? When it's very hard weather, you don't want to be driving in it when it's driving rain. But our radar can help and support that. Now, to golfing and some of the sport activities, those are just like, I call it the fun application. Because now we can actually be able to track how the golf ball is going, how your performance is. You can call up a coach and say, what are you seeing from me? How is this working? You know, I've had, you know, 5 different times at this golf course, and why is this one so worse than the others? Can you see whether my trajectory is it my swing just off? You know, oh my goodness, I'm making better, you know, longer drives than I've ever made. What is this? Why am I making better drives this time? So you have that performance aspect with a GUI application with one of our key partners. And so again, it's the affordability that has made this a change. So what we hadn't talked about, we've talked about the swap, but we haven't talked about the price point. And our price is tremendously less expensive than any of the radars or any of the systems in the market today. Look forward to sharing and giving people more information around that, but rest assured that this is a huge change from what people have experienced in the past. So that's another reason for this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much we can talk about. And, you know, to your point, Lori, you know, honestly, we can say the sports application is just fun, but hey, sports are, that's a business. No, I mean, there is big, we know this, there is big money in sports. And so if anybody from the sports world is listening, hello, here's something you might not have thought about, honestly. And I want to go back to the defense application real quick. And then from there, I really want to talk about how does this work as a practical matter? Because I imagine it's scenario, you mentioned like, you know, the price point. I imagine it's scenario dependent. I want to talk about the different models that, you know, how this can be deployed, if you will, right? So first, defense. It's tiny. I can throw it in my rucksack. You know, what are defenders using this for out there?
So I think we look at defense, you look at base security.
Yeah.
You look at the aspect, to your point. I have it in my rucksack. Can I stick it on my autonomous dog, you know, and let it go forward and give me information of, is somebody in that forest? Is somebody over here, right? Or you could flip up a bird and fly that bird over that looks like a normal bird. Is anybody going to, you know, think that it's anything different when you see an eagle? Oh, it's a beautiful eagle, right?
Right.
You have no idea that it's got a radar that's giving information back, right? To the standpoint of autonomous vehicles. So it really helps, particularly in that forward deployment situation in the middle of nowhere, to be able to give the communications as well as to be able to share the information back to the team members or be able to keep the team members safe. Because remember, not only do I have that radar technology, but I also have that network aspect.
Yeah, and the full integration, you know, from a homeland security standpoint, when I say that term, it really fairly embraces our public safety brothers and sisters, right? Because when you think about homeland security, the first boots on the ground are always local law enforcement. You know, they really struggle with funding. I mean, we've seen this on the drone side, people trying to start their own drone programs, but you know, at the price point we're talking about and the mobility of this thing and the flexibility of it, I imagine this could be an amazing asset for local law enforcement as well.
We do too. We believe in even the border security and federal protection, especially in specialized protection requirements and needs, dignitary.
Oh, like VIP kind of?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So I think, like I said, you know, it's a tool to augment, and you know, people get very concerned about the fear factor of technology and what's it going to do to me and what's it going to hurt? What, you know, how, you know, is it going to displace jobs? And I actually think this is a tool to make our lives simpler and make our lives safer. And so that's what I like to see, is that we are enabling technology forward-thinking technology to become our day-to-day, in our day-to-day uses, if you will, to be, you know, help our productivity levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about, just as a practical matter, how someone, you know, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's defense, whether it's a critical infrastructure, you know, partner, how do they work with MatrixSpace to have this kind of security system, if you will? In other words, am I purchasing a bunch of different units? Am I, we call this software as a service, or a security as a service. So am I hiring you or your team to come out and operate this thing? Or how exactly does it work? Are there different models?
Yeah, there's going to be different models in how we deploy with the end user customer, depending on who that end user customer is.
Right.
We have key partners that will do the maintenance and the support and some of the integration aspects. Really depends on, like I mentioned, who that end user customer is. We are not into a professional services company where we're going to, be, day-to-day involvement and, changing out stuff. I mean, that's where we have some key partners that can handle some of that aspect. What we want to do is support our end user customers in the successful use of the technology. And so we have, like I said, whether it's going to be a software as a service kind of a model, whether it is, just depending on whether it's capital or expense, just really depends on that end user customer.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And, we talked about sports arenas, essentially. We talked about borders. I imagine your system can have coverage for any range, from small arenas all the way to an entire country's border.
So it really depends on how the customer wants to be able to utilize our system. But yes, they can start to put an overlay out, and we would support all that overlay and that infrastructure, like I said, with some of our key partners. And one thing I think, Dawn, that we want to be clear on is that MatrixSpace and Greg Waters, our CEO, is very, very key on customer service and customer support. And so we want to be focused around our customers and easy to do business with. I really do want to point that out. But to the answer to your question is, yes, you could start to look at laying this out on country borders. In cases where customers need longer lengths, this array does not just stay in that form factor that I shared with you. It will continue to evolve and grow depending on what some of our end user requirements are. Then it can add to the different phased array, but still consider the smaller form factor. So it will always have that same ratio in size and that same ratio in price.
Okay, that is very significant. And what do we miss, Lori, about this new MatrixSpace Radar that you just released to the world yesterday, that you want to tell us about? Because I also want to talk about the future and, kind of also how people can find you as well.
So I just want to say that I think everybody will be excited. I know everybody I talk to all day long gets really excited and everybody's really racing to come work with us and be part of our story. So look forward to people reaching me. You can reach me at Lori.DeMatteis at MatrixSpace.com. The other thing that I think I'd like to close with is, as I opened, we need more people in this industry. We need to encourage the young to join this industry. And that's what Greg is about as well, and our whole company. And so we welcome teaching. We have a lot of interns. We want to support the growth of the industry overall. But the one final thing I can say is that, we are adjusting. We are able to move and at our clients' needs. And where clients are going, we find that this technology is nimble enough to be there with them. And that's what I find is exciting, is that this is absolutely not just one thing. It is the first of many stepping stones for our customers.
Well, Lori, it really harkens back to the company's origins, being at the R&D hub at Northeastern University there near Boston. And, I love the fact that you're engaged in not only evolving the technology that you're putting forward, which is incredible, but also the industry as well as you go. And I wanted to thank you not only, and of course, Greg and MatrixSpace as a whole, not only for sponsoring this month of multi-domain operation support, but also everybody, if you didn't know, MatrixSpace are one of our scholars program sponsors for the Law Tech Connect workshop. And so at AVSI Exponential on Monday, May 8th. So please join us there, meet the scholars that MatrixSpace is supporting. And I know you've also supported Women in Drones and their big event at CES earlier in the year. So, you know, behind the scenes, you're quietly doing these incredible things to develop people, which I think is really wonderful. So thank you so much for that. By the way, speaking of exponential, everybody, this is really important. Congratulations. MatrixSpace has been listed as one of the down select finalists for the Excellence in Technology Enabling Components and Peripherals Award.
Yes.
So that will actually, the winner will be announced at a big ceremony on site on Tuesday in Denver, May 9th from 1 to 2 p.m. Mountain Time. So make sure you're getting your ticket and joining us. Meet Lori in person. We'd love to see you there as well. So very exciting. But before we close, Lori, I know this is just the beginning. You said stepping stone. You guys have big visions for the future as well. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit before we close about some of the things you're projecting out throughout this year and into 2024 as well.
Well, let's just say that we have some very big plans, and whether it's having to do with the AI and machine learning portion and identification of where we're going and a game changer for the industry on that, or whether it's an evolution of eVTOL and the ability to communicate and wrap cities to enable safe flight from rooftop to rooftop. There is a lot of interesting things that we're working on with various organizations, both here in the United States and internationally, and look forward to sharing that with everybody.
Well, we will absolutely keep an eye peeled for what is happening with MatrixSpace. I imagine we're going to keep seeing press release after press release throughout the coming months. We're really excited for you. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us and for telling us all about your new MatrixSpace Radar. And we look forward to seeing you in person as well, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
We are out here.